Playoffs? Let's talk about playoffs.
I want winners.
Now,
If you want to crown them, then crown your ass.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
just keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys.
Great cash, homie. Welcome, everybody, to the Double Overtime NFL Podcast. I'm Joey Hickman. Joining me on the yellow line is Eli Corhonen. Eli, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good on this fine day. How about you?
I'm a little under the weather, if I'm honest. This is like my flu game here today. But I'm decided to tough it out to talk about an amazing Week 3. Probably one of the better Week 3s in history, if you look back at it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be recapping the biggest Week 3 games, and then preview of 3 Week 4 games, and then ending with a segment that we may or may not be adding to the show, depending on how it goes. So, let's get started. Denver at Seattle. Start with the main event.
At Seattle. This is the most hype game coming in, easily.
Probably the biggest 1 o'clock game in NFL history. Obviously a rematch of the Super Bowl. Probably, despite their records, I'd still say probably the 2 best teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eli, what are your thoughts?
Well, it wasn't, I mean, the first part of the game, really the first 3 quarters of the game, it was, it wasn't a fun game to watch, but it was 2 good teams battling each other. That's really what it was. And then, really at the end, Peyton Manning stepped it up, and that was entertaining to watch, and especially that ending, the walk-off run by Marshawn Lynch, but, you know.
Yeah, I agree. It was tough at the beginning to watch just because I kind of felt like Denver's offense and Manning in particular was kind of overthinking a bit or overcoaching, which is kind of weird to criticize a quarterback for that, but that's what Peyton Manning does.
Yeah.
Like, at one point it was 3rd and 9. Twice they tried to run, and they could get nothing in the run game. I think Seattle's run defense might be better than their pass defense at this point in the season. They've been really good.
That's really saying something.
Oh, yeah. And they try to run with 2nd tight end Virgil Green, maybe even 3rd tight end, because they have Jacob Tamme too. They try to run on 3rd and 9 with Virgil Green. Suffice to say, it got nowhere. I have no clue what the plan was for that, but I was not a fan of how the Broncos were playing this game at first. Manning, when he did throw, though, I believe he started this game 11-13.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of slowed down later, but obviously at the end, he was carving up that defense, and the Cam Chancellor pick, I remember when he threw it, I just thought, oh, man, that's a shame. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to look back on this game and think Peyton Manning threw it away, even though, Manning was carving up this defense during that whole drive. Mm-hmm. And then, sure enough, and I kind of thought it was a little bad when they only got a field goal, the Seahawks did, on that big return. Seattle's offense only mustered those 3 points during the second half. And I was thinking, okay, well, if there's one guy you don't want to have a 1-possession lead against, it's Peyton Manning, and sure enough, he carved up that defense.
Yeah, he really turned it on when he needed to.
Oh, yeah, in Seattle, there's not a tougher place to play for a quarterback right now, in that situation, too. And he showed why he's one of the 3 best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, he looked incredible on that drive. So, and then in overtime, Seahawks got the ball. They won the coin toss. Phil Simms debated whether or not Seattle should kick the ball or not. I have no clue why. I have absolutely no clue why. I mean, I know Seattle's offense hadn't mustered anything, but Denver's offense just looked like the greatest offense in history.
Why would you give Peyton Manning the ball in that situation?
Yeah, that's why I'm not a fan of Phil Simms. So Seattle got the ball, and Russell Wilson proceeded to look like maybe the best. I don't really like to add narratives like passing of the torch and all that, but Wilson kind of looked like that guy during that last drive. He looked really good.
Yeah, he did. But
against a defense that had given him nothing all day. What's up?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the passing of the torch storyline here either.
Me neither. Okay, that's a little strong, but I thought Wilson really. I laugh when people say Russell Wilson's the game manager. I mean, he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league without a doubt. And just imagine, I mean, everyone's saying this, but if this were Super Bowl, I think it would be such a great story if it came full circle and it ended with that Marshawn Lynch run. Because if you look at it, like, again, adding to narratives here, every dynasty, and I'm not saying Seattle's going to be a dynasty, but they all have that moment, the catch, the immaculate reception.
Mm-hmm.
If Seattle were to start a dynasty, it's going to be that Marshawn Lynch run against the Saints.
Yeah.
You'd have to say. I mean, that run's probably one of the most famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if they were to win the Super Bowl in overtime on a Marshawn Lynch run, it would have just been a perfect story.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I'm kind of glad this game happened the way it did, though, because it was in Seattle, which made it special.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think of these teams coming out of this game? Both teams.
Well, they both look good. So you can't say one team looked bad. You know what? I think they're going to be there in the end again. I think both these teams are really good. To be honest, I wasn't. If there's one thing I take away, I wasn't too happy with what I saw from the Broncos defense, especially with all the moves they've made. I think impressed.
Yeah, I kind of think that last drive kind of spoiled our opinion. That second half, they were pretty much stopping Seattle, point blank. I think T.J. Ward looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think DeMarcus Ware had one of my favorite sacks of the year, that one right before the safety where he forced the fumble on Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it coming, and it's like when you're watching a horror film and Jason Voorhees appears behind the teenage girl and you scream, turn around, because Wilson did not see Ware at all, and Ware almost got that ball out. No, he did get the ball out. It was recovered by Seattle. They forced a safety that really ended up kind of being the momentum shift for him, because at that point it was 17-3. For most of that game it was 17-3. The Broncos offense wasn't getting much.
Yeah. But I will say this. In your opinion, do you think this game has a different outcome if it's in Denver?
Well, that's tough. I think... All right, I'll put it. I think Denver wins in Denver.
Yeah, I do too.
I'll say it by that.
I do too.
Here, the Seattle crowd, CenturyLink, didn't impact Manning like I thought they would, especially when they were running no huddle flat out in that last drive when they had no timeouts.
Yeah.
It was almost like they were moving too fast for Seattle. He was playing against about 20,000 or 20,000. What am I saying? Like 80,000 people, however many people are there. Yeah. He was like playing against all of them, just trying to they didn't have a chance to catch their breath. It almost felt like, because they were running that no huddle so fast. They're like, trying to keep that screen going. And Manning was just trying to mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was part of the reason for going with the running game so much, was just it's Arizona a year ago when they beat them. A lot of it was just that their offense was so, I don't want to say dull, but dull enough that the crowd couldn't really get into getting excited to stop them. And I think that crowd is a really big factor in CenturyLink. I don't think it can really be overstated how loud that place is.
Yeah, even now looking at it, it's really loud, but I'm sure if you're in that stadium, it's even louder than you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
But like you said, that no huddle, I think Peyton Manning knew going in that is probably the only thing you can do to combat that kind of thing.
I also underestimated during our preview that Peyton Manning is a 20-year veteran and is, as I mentioned, at least one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time. So I probably should have factored that into my Denver prediction.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But like I was saying, I think this game is different in Denver. I think it's not as close, if I'm being honest with you. I think Denver wins by a little bit more.
Give me an exact little bit more.
I'd say 10 points.
Wow. Here's the thing. I kind of think Denver has its own home field advantage in that it's the air up there, right?
True, yeah.
I think that... Is it odd to say I kind of think Seattle's offense is better in Denver? And here's what I mean by that.
Interesting.
Watch week 1 against when the Broncos played Andrew Luck and the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
In that first half, Denver's defense looked amazing. In that second half, they were clearly tired, and Luck was able to take advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that the Seahawks do the same thing to the Denver defense,
mm-hmm.
where they take advantage of those tired guys. And also, odd thing. They didn't really get Percy Harvin involved here, and I thought he was been their most dynamic playmaker in the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, Harvin didn't. He had a few catches, but they didn't use him on a single run. I just think Harvin could have been a bigger factor in Denver when those, like I said, those defensive players, those big linebackers like Miller and Ware and Ward and, well, Ward's a safety, but, when they're tired, when they're gassed more, I think that Harvin, if they would have used him in Denver, could have been more effective.
Yeah.
I don't think that, let me get this, I still think Denver wins, but I think it's kind of a field goal game like it was here. Well, no, this was a 7-point win, but 6-point win, excuse me.
It came down to the last play.
Yes. Yes. And this was the Super Bowl we were all praying for, and we didn't get, obviously, but I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't know if I think necessarily any differently of these two teams. I don't know if I think any differently of these two teams than I did going in.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Here's something interesting. Sherman has not looked great in these past 2 weeks. I mean, he's looked fine. I mean, I'm not saying Sherman's been bad, but I don't know about number one corner status. Okay, actually, here's something. I don't even know if he's the second best player on his defense right now.
Revis didn't have a great game either, if you want to talk about that.
I'm not saying corner. I'm talking Seattle.
Oh, okay.
I agree. Revis did not have a good game either. But, so, Michael Bennett has been awesome these past few weeks, and I mentioned it with Seattle's run defense. He got a hit on Manning that I guarantee you Manning will not take a more brutal hit than the one Michael Bennett gave him. And I don't know if there's a harder quarterback to get a hit on than Peyton Manning in the league.
That is very true.
He leaped on top of Peyton Manning. I was scared Manning wasn't going to get up. It looked brutal. And that's not necessarily an insult to Sherman. He still played very good. But I think that Bennett and Thomas have been, like, amazingly good. Like, really, really good. So do you think this is just Sherman playing against two of the best pass defense or offenses in the league? These were the two best last season. Or do you think that this is maybe people are buying into the Sherman hype too much when they don't throw to him?
I think the second one is a lot more true. I think people are buying into the hype, and I think quarterbacks. I think this is a little different because, Revis also had that hype, but he's also vulnerable like all corners are. But Revis wasn't as cocky as Sherman was, and I think Sherman rubs people the wrong way, especially quarterbacks.
Oh, yes.
And I think
he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, like you said.
And I think quarterbacks really want to go after him and really kind of put him in a place,
I don't have a problem with Sherman's cockiness. I mean, it gets kind of annoying. My problem with it is if he buys into too much of his own stock, it kind of gets, like we saw with the Keenan Allen play, he was just thinking, oh, I've got this guy beat all the way. I already know his route. I know. And he completely didn't even look at where Keenan Allen was going because he thought he had him. Like, that's bad. Like, I think one of the things that makes Revis good is he never, like you say, never says anything, but I don't think Revis really thinks of himself every play as I'm the best corner in football. He's just thinking, what do I have to do to stop the guy in front of me? And yeah, listen, everyone's going to get beat. James Jones beat Revis a few times this week. I mean, so I'm not saying that it's bad that Sherman gets beat, but like I said, I don't think teams should be afraid of throwing at Sherman, especially if you start taking out options against this Seattle defense. Green Bay saw firsthand what happens.
Yeah.
So anything else to say about this game, Eli?
It was a good game. I wish the Super Bowl was like this, and I look forward to these teams playing each other in the future.
Future meaning you think they're going to Super Bowl?
I look forward to it if they do play each other.
Here's something. I don't think neither of these teams are necessarily... Like last year going into the playoffs, I found it hard to see either of these teams losing in the playoffs. I don't feel that way about either team right now.
True. I feel the exact same way.
I think Cincinnati could beat Denver. I'll be honest.
I
was very, very down on Cincinnati. Real quick rant about Cincinnati. I think they've looked like the best team through 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the teams, and it's not like they're beating scrubs either. The teams that they've beaten, in the games that those teams play against teams that aren't Cincinnati, are 5-1 combined. So Speaking of Cincinnati in the AFC North, Ravens at Browns. Eli, your first game you want to talk about?
Just one thing real quick. I agree
sorry,
wholeheartedly that the Bengals are the best team in the NFL, and it's so disgusting that ESPN, in their power rankings this week, put the Seahawks above the Bengals.
No, they didn't. Really? I swear. No, NFL put them. I don't know. I hate power rankings most of the time anyway. Yeah. Bleacher Reports, ESPN, NFL.com. I hate them all.
Anyway, so we are on the Browns and the Ravens.
Yes, the game you want to talk about.
Yes. Now, I'm going to open this up with a question to you.
Yes.
The Browns are 1-2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you think there's a chance that they're 3-0 with Josh Gordon?
Huh. Interesting question. It's so hard to put a pulse on that Pittsburgh game because it was so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because if you look at every single Browns game this year has ended on a walk-off field goal, be it for the Browns or against the Browns.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Josh Gordon at least adds one touchdown in each of those games. I mean, who's he playing against? Ike Taylor.
Yeah.
Who I don't want to insult too bad. He had one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen on Sunday Night Football. He had, oh God, I don't even know who'd cover him on the Saints. Keenan Allen, I guess. And then the Ravens. I get Ladarius Webb was back, but he's far from 100% right now. So yeah, I think the Browns are 3-0 with Gordon.
Yeah,
good question.
Yeah, I would say they're at least 2-1, and I think there's a very good possibility they could be 3-0. I mean, Brian Hoyer has looked good.
He has. Yes. Does he have an interception yet? Did he throw one on Sunday?
He did. He didn't throw one on Sunday. No.
Then he doesn't have an interception yet.
And I'm loving it on two angles. I'm happy that the Browns have something going here, and also I'm happy because this is shutting up the Johnny Manziel crowd, even though they use him in the trick play on Sunday. But
oh God, they gotta stop. They just gotta stop. I almost wish they would have him sit like in the locker room, like just so I can't. I mean, I used to have problems watching Browns games anyway, but now I have a problem just watching because I'd say at least 15% of the broadcast is shots of Johnny Manziel on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know why they didn't show, like, I don't know, Chase Daniel during the Saints game. Or, I guess they did show Derek Anderson during the Panthers game. Anyway, so, yeah, I agree. I think Hoyer's been good.
Yeah.
He's not flashy.
No.
But he doesn't need to be.
Definitely not.
I like some of the pieces. I like their running backs.
I do.
I mean, I thought Ben Tate would be the big contributor. He's been hurt. Terrence West and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they've been really good at running back.
Yeah, Terrence West is one of 10 running backs with at least 200 yards this season.
Oh, jeez.
And Cleveland is also 10th in points in the league. Offensively. Yeah,
I believe it.
They're doing pretty solid on offense, and I'm really loving it, you know? And
yeah.
Now, on the flip side, with the Ravens, I'm going to call you out because you thought Steve Smith wasn't going to do anything for that team. He has looked great in these first 3 weeks.
So here's an interesting thing. I was actually also going to talk about Steve Smith. Gary Kubiak, when he ran the offense in Houston, he's now the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. The main criticism of his offense was that it was focused on one receiver, Andre Johnson. And now the argument for him was, well, Andre Johnson's the best receiver in football. Now I think the Ravens' offense is the same way, where it's focused on one receiver, Steve Smith. Last year's leading receiver, Torrey Smith. Can you guess how many receptions he has this season?
Who, Torrey Smith?
Torrey Smith, yeah. Ravens' last year leading receiver.
I'll take a guess, 3.
6.
Okay.
But still, I mean, and Steve Smith has 18.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, here's why I didn't think Steve Smith would be great. He's about 34 years old, and I think that's legitimately his age. That said, though, like I said, they're taking advantage. I'm still not a fan of this Baltimore offense, though, because it feels like they live life on the big play.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they live life on the arm of Flacco. The only way they're moving the ball to the red zone half the time is they're bombing it out to Steve Smith. And granted, I'll give you that. I think Steve Smith's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's working okay, but again, it didn't work. It worked once against the Bengals. I don't see this team beating the Bengals right now.
No. No, no, not at all.
I'm sorry. I don't think this is a playoff offense.
I don't think they have too great of a defense either. Like, they're perfectly mediocre, I think. The Ravens are.
Really? I like Baltimore's defense okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, they're not.
Yeah, their corners are not great.
Yeah.
Was Asa Jackson playing? I know he got hurt in the Pittsburgh game.
I'm not 100% on that.
And their safeties are not great. Matt Elam's okay. But I mean, their front seven's still really good. They still got Suggs, who's still really good.
Yeah.
Gladiator Mask or not.
Nada.
They still got Haloti Nada, who I think has been one of the more underrated players in the league for his time here. He's still really great.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the Browns' offense is better than we thought. And Kyle Shanahan, I mean, he got a bad rep for last season in Washington, but that offense was still really good in Washington. It was just their defense was so porous.
Mm-hmm.
And their offense is really good right now.
Yeah.
I think Shanahan's done a good job.
I agree. Once again, I'm really digging what the Browns are doing right now. Mm-hmm. Especially when you have a guy like Manziel, who I think he is their quarterback of the future. I just think people were wrong about calling him up to start right away.
I don't like that they're using him in this trick play nonsense, because it almost feels like the Tebow situation where they're just getting him on the field just so people don't tear their heads off.
Exactly. Stop.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just stupid at this point. It gets ridiculous there.
It is.
The Browns. It's stuff like that that makes the Browns feel so Bush League, you know? Mm-hmm. It makes them feel like in the caliber of Jacksonville or Oakland.
Yeah.
And their team is, I think, I don't know, is this the best Browns team we've seen since, I guess the beginning of last year they were okay. But, I mean,
they
I don't
look
know.
a lot more promising this year.
Oh, yeah. Here's an interesting thing I'm going to call you out on. You said the AFC North was the worst. You agreed with Las Vegas in the AFC North being the worst division of football.
Okay.
Calling you out. They're one of the best divisions in football this year thus far.
Yeah, they have the best team through 3 weeks. They have a very promising Browns team. The Ravens look mediocre, and the Steelers look about the same. But, yeah.
Okay. You did not see that Carolina game. Listen, if you take that Ravens game out of the equation, which, granted, that Ravens game... Listen, we'll get into this later. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think you're kind of underselling the Ravens in a way. I think the Ravens are still pretty good. I just think the Browns are better than we think they are.
I think the Ravens are 8-8 this year.
I'm not a fan of that offense, so I'm inclined to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not be shocked if they went 9-7 or even 10-6. It's going to be tough in this division.
I'll give them 8-8.
Okay, I'll agree with you. All right, my second game I want to talk about. Green Bay at Detroit. Now, Detroit has been having this giant elephant in the room known as Nate Freeze.
Uh-huh.
I did not want to talk about him too bad because he's a rookie, and I always kind of feel bad talking about bad rookies, but he has looked horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I took a picture of his Wikipedia. He's been cut.
Mm-hmm.
He's been replaced by Philadelphia Eagles legend Alex Henry.
Oh.
Did you know that he'd been replaced by Alex Henry, Eli?
Did not know. Not until now.
Are you a fan of that signing?
No.
Is Akers retired now? Because he was their kicker last season, and I mean, I don't know if he's...
I think he's retired. Akers was a very good kicker, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd see if he'd come back. Anyway, so here is Freeze's Wikipedia I read this morning. I don't know if it's been changed or not. It says, NFL career. Freeze was drafted by the Detroit Lions in the 7th round, 229th overall, of the 2014 draft. Freeze was 3 for 7 in his NFL career on field goal kicks, showing no ability whatsoever to connect beyond 40 yards. The Lions released him on September 22nd, 2014, and he will likely never play in the NFL again. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's not a legitimate Wikipedia entry, but it kind of does sum up Nate Freeze's. I don't see another team signing the poor kid, but he did not look very good.
No, he didn't, but the Lions won.
No, and that's what I was going to say. This game was actually worse for the Packers than the score indicated. He missed a few field goals in this game. 19-7, Detroit destroyed Green Bay, and it wasn't their offense.
Mm-hmm.
their defense looked really good.
Yeah, it did. Oh,
I was critical of their defense, but their front line looks really good. Yeah. Their front seven.
I'm looking over the numbers right now, and there's not one Packer player that stood out. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't even get to 200 yards. Their running game was terrible, 76 yards.
Second game this season where Rodgers didn't even touch 190.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the first game was against Seattle, but,
the receivers didn't have a good enough. It was.
And Jordy Nelson was on his way to having one of the best receiving months of receivers ever had in the NFL.
Yeah, he pretty much hit a brick wall here, but
Yeah.
Look at this Lions team, though. They're the second best in the league at rush yards per game as far as the defense is concerned.
Yeah, their defense, I haven't been giving them credit. Their defense is really good.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Levy, I think, has really emerged. I mean, he was really good last season, but he's really stepped it up this season.
But they did have a big injury, though. They lost.
Oh, boy.
He is gone.
I don't like to laugh at injuries, but that guy did Grammatica himself.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but for those of you who didn't see it, Stephen Tulloch made a tackle and tackle for a loss, celebrated by jumping up and doing the Aaron Rodgers title belt thing, I believe was his idea.
Yeah.
And he landed on his knee, and you could tell right away he hurt himself. His ACL is torn. He will miss the rest of the season.
Yep.
Unfortunate injury, but I don't know. It's hard not to laugh. I mean, it's not even like it was a subtle celebration. I mean, it would not be unthinkable that he got a penalty for excessive celebration with that celebration for what he did.
No, I agree.
But it is a big injury.
Yeah.
For this defense. But that front four is really good. And listen, there's Ziggy Ansah, who I think has been really good since he's been drafted last year, and Ndamukong Suh. I mean, Suh gets a bad reputation, but he's obviously one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Nick Fairley, who stepped it up. Nick Fairley was out of shape in training camp, and he's really been pretty good. And listen, I don't know if there's much better you could do on a defense than be able to rush the passer with 4.
Yeah.
That's such an underrated thing you can do because we've seen 2 Super Bowls won recently with when you can rush the passer with 4, and they were both by the New York Giants.
Yeah.
When you can do that, it opens so many doors for your defense when you can have 7 guys in coverage.
Yeah,
no matter how good your quarterback is. I mean, we saw it twice with Tom Brady. We saw it this past Sunday with Aaron Rodgers. If you can get pressure with 4, it's very hard to throw because you cannot – there's coverage with 7. Sorry, go ahead, Eli.
I was saying that is really the building block of those great defenses when you think back. They always had a great front 4 that could get pressure by themselves.
Yes. I mean, Eli Manning was MVP of those 2 Super Bowls. I would argue, at least in the first one, Justin Tuck should have been MVP. I mean, there's a reason that they were able to beat that New England offense in that Super Bowl, in both Super Bowls, but especially 42. They had no time to throw. I mean, there's a reason they only put up 14 points after being the most prolific passing offense in NFL history at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with Seattle. Seattle was able to rush 4 against Denver in the Super Bowl this year, and we saw what happened. Denver's put up 8 points.
But I will say, despite how good Detroit's defense looked, their offense did not look very good.
No.
Matthew Stafford especially going with 2 interceptions in this game.
Stafford is a little troubling, especially after that first week. If I remember right, the first one wasn't necessarily his fault. The second one, though, was one of those I lock on to Calvin Johnson, and I try to throw it to Calvin Johnson. It's a mistake I make in Madden a lot. But Matthew Stafford's getting paid a lot more than I do to play Madden to make better decisions than that. Also, he had a bad fumble.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the Detroit offense as much as Stafford just looked bad. And I kind of think Stafford, I kind of think of him in that Cutler mold where every once in a while you're going to have these games.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
I'm not worried about Stafford moving forward necessarily. I mean, you're just going to have these games where he throws 2 picks. I mean, and thankfully Detroit's defense was enough. I think Detroit might have looked the best of the 4 teams in the NFC North. I think Detroit may have looked the best through 3 weeks.
I'll give you that, yeah.
I don't think it's unthinkable to see them win this division at all right now.
It's not. It's not.
I know you still love your Bears, especially after Monday.
Yeah. But The one thing that concerns me, though, is Green Bay's defense is bad.
Oh, God, yes.
I thought,
Clay Matthews got hurt, by the way.
Yeah, and like we said last week, I thought Matthew Stafford would have a better game than this, and that
Yes.
a little bit. But other than that, I love their defense, and I just hope that Matthew Stafford can have a better game and not lock into Calvin Johnson so much, even though it's so easy to, I know sometimes. You have him, he just grabs balls from all over the place.
I think we'll be able to have a better grasp on this, well, all teams in Week 8, but especially this Lions team in Week 8. We'll know for sure what they are.
Yeah.
I think Matt Stafford, he's still adjusting to life with other receivers besides Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Also, Eddie Lacy through 3 weeks. Not good.
No, not good. Not good at all.
It's kind of tough for me to really criticize him, though, because he's played 3 great run defenses in the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Lions.
Yeah.
Ran into 3 brick walls, basically. But are you concerned if you're a Packers fan about Lacy?
A little bit, especially after the great year he had last year. I would personally be thinking either defenses have found a way to stop him, or he didn't put in the work this offseason that he thought he probably should have. I don't know. One of those two is what I'm thinking.
Here's an intriguing question. Big debate last year. Right now, let's say you're drafting Eli. You have a choice between 2 running backs. Who you take, Le'Veon Bell or Eddie Lacy?
Right now?
Yes.
I'll take Lacy, yeah.
Oh, Eli, you're killing me. You got to get on this Bell train. We're going to get into this later.
Okay.
Rodgers only threw for 162 yards. We'll see what happens with the Packers moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I forgot to mention, it should be noted that Seattle and Denver get a much-deserved bye this week.
Yeah.
After that slugfest.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that was actually smart by the schedule makers because those two need a rest.
Yeah, they definitely.
No matter what Elway says, Denver played that game with their hearts in it.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what any Bronco tries to say or John Elway tries to say, that team did not want to lose that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Cowboys at Rams. You want to talk about this one?
Yes, I did. As you know, the week 1 they had a pretty bad loss against the Niners. Mm-hmm. They had a blowout win against the Titans, and this week they had a comeback win against the St. Louis Rams, and the Cowboys are just checking off all the different ways to win and lose, basically. What's interesting to me is the Cowboys did something that they're not really known to do, and that's come back and win in the clutch.
Well, I don't know. There's that statistic that was floating around last year that Romo has the most game-winning drive since, I think, 2012. I don't think that's true now because I think, it might have been Manning or Brady or Luck that passed it. Anyway, I kind of think that if you watch this game, I think that Dallas falling behind was a lot of Dallas, not necessarily the Rams.
Yeah.
Dallas' secondary I still think is among the worst in the league. I do not look forward to watching this team against, for example, the Eagles.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Dallas' front 4 and front 7, not horrible.
Not horrible at all.
They're not great, but I'll say they're average at best. Go ahead.
There's an interesting stat, though, and maybe Jason Garrett's figuring something out. Jason Garrett is 8-1 when the team he's coaching has more run plays than pass plays. And I think that has a lot to do with DeMarco Murray as well.
I think that also has to do with their offensive line. It's because he's put it this way. I think Jason Garrett's pretty stupid for not realizing this before. They should have been running last year too.
Yeah, DeMarco Murray is pretty good.
Yeah, and so's that. Like I said, so's that offensive line. You can attest to what good and bad offensive line can do for your run game.
Yeah.
And that's not taking away from DeMarco Murray. I believe he leads the league in rushing yards right now, if I'm not mistaken. I think Dallas' front 7 can be attributed to defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli, who I think is one of the best positional coaches in the league. He coached the Bears team that had one of the best front lines during the 2011-2012 season. He was Dallas's defensive line coach last year when they made a Pro Bowler out of, or I don't know if it's a Pro Bowler, but a multimillionaire out of 32-year-old Jason Hatcher, who's now with the Redskins, who I will admit is not doing horrible there, as I thought he would. But, yeah, that said, Dallas' secondary is really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Austin Davis was carving them up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had a few – Jared Cook had a drop that was wide open to him that would have given the Rams a touchdown in this game.
Yeah.
Late when they needed it. Did you see what Jared Cook did on the sideline
Shoved
afterwards?
them. Yep.
Shoved poor Austin Davis.
He was just trying to be a teammate, too.
I would have led you should have cut Jared Cook right there.
Yeah. I
mean, it's not like this is Rob Gronkowski here.
Yeah.
You
can't do that. And I remember I heard an interview, and he was just like, I just didn't want to talk to anybody. But it's like, I mean, come on, man. You can't
Dude,
just
if anyone has a reason to shove someone, Austin Davis has a reason to shove you. You dropped that pass. Here's an interesting thing. Do you think what do you think of the job Jeff Fisher's doing with this Rams team?
I think he's doing as good of a job as he can, I think. Especially when you've got, a shaky quarterback situation.
You almost didn't say shaky there.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
But I think he's doing as good of a job as he can, and that defense still looks serviceable, and I think they'll have their games this season.
When Jeff Fisher was with the Titans, I always thought he was a top 5 coach. I've always been a fan of Fisher. Yeah. He's made chicken salad more times than I can count.
Yeah.
I mentioned the 13-3 Kelly Collins here. Here's an interesting interesting idea I just picked up. Has Jeff Fisher had a franchise quarterback since Steve McNair in Tennessee?
No.
Vince Young, Kerry Collins.
No. No.
Whoever replaced Vince Young in that horrible year, I can't remember.
Jake Locker? No.
No, he never had Jake Locker. That was Munchak. Even then.
Yeah.
And now Austin Davis, Sean Hill, and Sam Bradford.
Poor Sam Bradford. It makes me sad every time I think about it.
Yeah. That said, I think there's a few things that are kind of weird. He's bringing in a lot of Tennessee players. And a lot of troubled Tennessee players.
Yeah.
Brought in Cortland Finnegan. He's brought in Jared Cook. He brought in Kenny Britt. I don't know if I like that. Fisher has a history of trying to bring in troubled players and fix them up. I don't mean to he's not very good at it. I'll just lay it out like that. I mean, Adam Pac-Man Jones, I don't want to revisit that. He's playing in Cincinnati now, Adam Jones is, but I think Cincinnati is a lot better at fixing up these guys than Fisher is. That's no offense to Jeff Fisher. I'm sure his heart's in the right place, but I don't know if it's necessarily the best strategy when you're trying to win football teams. I still think Brian Schottenheimer might be the worst offensive coordinator in the league. I mean, granted, I guess you have to be kind of simple when you have Austin Davis running your offense, but a lot of people are trying to say Tavon Austin's a bust. I just don't think he's had the coaching to really make him like, look at what the 62-year-old North Turner is doing with Cordero Patterson in Minnesota, and then look at what 38-year-old or however-year-old Brian Schottenheimer is doing with Tavon Austin, and it's amazing, really.
Yeah, here's a stat that I just found. Austin Davis isn't doing terrible because he has a higher quarterback rating than 13 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, including Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Roethlisberger, and Brady.
Tom Brady, yes. Okay, here's the thing, and I know what you're saying. Listen, I thought that too, and then look at who he's played so far. All right, week 1 he played Minnesota. He didn't have many passes because he came in the game when Sean Hill got hurt. Week 2 he played a Tampa Bay defense that, if you saw Thursday Night Football, was maybe like one of the 3 worst defenses in football.
Yeah.
And week 3 he played Dallas. Let's put that in perspective for a second. For example,
like Lawrence Claiborne and Brandon Carr.
Yeah. And he got picked off by Claiborne, too. He's one of only 4 quarterbacks to have that happen to him.
Join the shame club.
Yes, he had 2 picks against the Dallas secondary. That's horrible. Granted, one was by a linebacker, Bruce Carter. That was a pick 6, by the way. Yeah. The best part about this game was Dallas's awesome offensive line versus the Rams' awesome defensive line. Rams are another team that I think if they can get a solid situation around them, these are guys who can create pressure with 4.
Yeah.
They have Quinn, Aaron Donald, who's a rookie right now. I think next year the Rams can be really scary.
They can.
They need to get a quarterback ASAP, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think that quarterback's Sam Bradford.
Unfortunately, it's not. If I were the management, I wouldn't take another chance on Bradford being healthy again. I would definitely look up elsewhere. Or the draft if they're bad enough this year.
They might be.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough NFC West.
Yeah.
By the way, in the second half, the Cowboys outscored the Rams 34-10. Romo looked really good sans that pick six. I will say that. Romo looked really good.
Mm-hmm. He did.
And so did DeMarco Murray.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my favorite game of the week. Woo! The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Carolina Panthers on Sunday Night Football. Now, while I was not happy this game was on Sunday night over Seattle and Denver, I will say it's always a joy to see your team kick ass at on prime time. I think you can attest to this, Eli.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's fun.
Fun. Let's get to some fun facts. You want to talk about fun facts. Panthers, 10 rushing attempts. Lowest in franchise history. This is a team, by the way, that's predicated on running the ball. Yeah. Their previous low was 11 against, guess what, the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2006. Second time in 23 games. Just the second time in 23 games they've allowed a rusher rush for 100 yards. They did not allow one rusher to rush for 100 yards. They allowed two.
One for almost 150.
Yeah. Bell had one of the greatest runs you'll ever see. This is the second time they have forced 0 turnovers in 23 games. The other time was that thrashing they took at the Saints last year in New Orleans.
LeGarrette Blount averaged 11 yards, almost 12 yards a carry.
While that is awesome, I will say Blount got 8 of his 11 carries in the last 2 drives, and they were just icing them.
True.
And he did have a huge run in that drive. I was more impressed by Bell.
7 yards a carry is still pretty damn good.
And he had 21 carries.
Yeah.
So, an underrated, I keep forgetting to point this out, but one of my favorite things this Pittsburgh Steelers did the offseason, they signed Mike Munchak as their offensive line coach. Munchak was one of the better offensive line coaches. He was a terrible head coach, but I'm a big believer in that some guys are born coordinators and some guys are born head coaches. Dick LeBeau, the aforementioned Rod Marinelli.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians is actually a better head coach than he's a coordinator. But anyway, so you scoffed at me that I got a news update here. Oh, quote on Aaron Rodgers on the offense. Aaron Rodgers adamant offense will be 5. 5 letters for everyone out there in Packerland. RELAX. Relax. Am I the only one who thinks Rodgers is a bit of a jerk sometimes?
A little bit. He has a bit of an ego.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the best game of the week. The reason I'm really talking about this game is I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to look this good the rest of the season. But anyway, you scoffed last week, and granted, I think I was prone to hyperbole here when I said that Ben, Bell, and Brown, the three Bs, could potentially be a top 10 player at each position for each one. Let me read you their stat lines. Ben Roethlisberger, 22 of 30, 196, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs, and maybe the most amazing stat, only 1 sack. Le'Veon Bell, 21 carries, 147 yards, 81-yard run.
Yeah.
And Antonio Brown, the guy that you actually agree is a top 5 player at the position, 10 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that necessarily this is what we're going to see every week, because, I mean, you can't really hope to recreate that. Yeah. But this is the team's ceiling. And I think this team's ceiling is miles higher than it was last season.
Okay.
I think this team, if they play even remotely like they did in this game in the first half against Cleveland, and they're an offensive powerhouse, is it inconceivable that they're 10-6?
I think that's very conceivable. I'm still not in love with their defense, but
no. No. Listen,
but I think they'll be pretty good.
Yeah, Cam Newton was hurt for a lot of this game. I think we have to factor this. Here's an interesting story. I hope doesn't get started. Do you think? And listen, I don't think this should be a problem at all, but it might be. Do you think that some people started a quarterback controversy with Derek Anderson and Cam Newton?
No.
I really hope not,
No.
because Derek Anderson did have a really good throw to Kelvin Benjamin, who I think is on his way to being
One
a star.
good throw, but Cam is still the center of that franchise.
No, I agree. But let's not forget, Cam Newton gets a lot of hate for a lot of unnecessary reasons. I think I predicted that if Pittsburgh won this game, it would be by 3 points last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pittsburgh did, it went how I said if Pittsburgh were to win, though, where Carolina can't take advantage of what Pittsburgh is worst at,
Mm-hmm.
and that's coverage. So, yeah, Carolina still has problems at wide receiver. What do you take away from these two teams going forward, Eli?
I think the Steelers' offense looks really good. Like you said, especially that running game. They have two very servable running backs at 1 and 2. And they have Brown, who's fabulous. And I think if they keep doing that, if they don't have to rely on Roethlisberger as much, I think they're going to be really successful. But once again, that defense worries me. But I think coming out of this game, it's maybe a believer in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to be competitive this year. Do I think they're going to win the North? No, because the Bengals.
Okay, no. I've given up on the North title. But do you think it's inconceivable they're a wild card?
It's not inconceivable at all.
Yes. Progress, Eli. Progress. What was I going to say? Another thing, it really hinders on that offensive line. I mean, Ben's only played 2 16-game seasons.
Yeah.
So I will say this offensive line looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good against a great pass rush
Mm-hmm.
that's been Carolina this season.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot more confident. They looked really good toward the end of last season, too, when Pittsburgh went, I believe, was it 8-4 in their last 12 games? So, yeah, one last thing. Big injuries on the defensive side that do not help. Ike Taylor, obviously, I don't want to get into it. I still haven't been able to watch it. I just know that they weren't willing to show a replay on Sunday Night Football, so that should tell me a lot. Have you seen it, Eli?
I have not.
Okay. I just know he's probably out for the rest of the season. Air casts are always a scary thing to see on a player.
Yeah.
And then another really scary injury, not necessarily for their health, though that is a concern, but for the Pittsburgh. Jarvis Jones and Ryan Shazier were both hurt. I know Jones is going to be out for a few weeks. And Shazier, I don't know really about Shazier, but did you hear who the Pittsburgh Steelers signed, Eli?
Who?
They talked about signing this guy.
Oh, wait,
like,
no.
Cool,
No, I know.
Yes.
James
James Harrison.
Harrison, yes.
This is interesting. I thought when they
man.
signed him a few days ago, I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be like the Jerry Rice deal where they bring him back for one day so he can retire a Steeler. Thank God he doesn't get to retire a Bengal.
That's what I thought.
Me too. And then yesterday I heard, when I read my, I got an email update, they're like, they're talking about having him play. Like, no way. And sure enough, he signed today with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He will be playing snaps this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, I like it because it's kind of sentimental. I still think Harrison's in football shape. If you've seen these videos, it's not like the guy is, falling out of shape,
Mm-hmm.
And he obviously knows this defense in and out.
Yeah.
By the way, you didn't see much of this game. Did you see Joey Porter on the sideline as a coach?
No, I did not.
So freaking weird.
I bet.
Like the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
I bet.
He is bigger than everybody. Thankfully he's not wearing usual coach's garb. He's just got Steelers sweatshirt on, but still him with the headset. Not that I'm not a fan of Joey Porter being a coach. It's just weird to see. It's surreal. Be like seeing Ray Lewis as a coach. It's weird seeing Ray Lewis in studio, to be fair, but anyway, James Harrison, I really hope that he can do good. I obviously, I mean,
at least come in and contribute. That's all you can ask.
That is obviously the hope. And I don't think it's inconceivable. I just think he was kind of in a bad scheme fit in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't blame Pittsburgh for releasing him when he did. His contract was out of control. But now, let's give this a shot.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. And finally...
Just give him the vet minimum and see what he can do.
Yeah. And he seems like all the bad blood seems gone. He actually posted a cool video of him asking his kids if they wanted him to play. And at first they were like, no. And then he goes, what if I told you it was for Pittsburgh? And they went, yeah. I was like, yeah, kids. Woo! I'm all in. Anyway, let's talk about what I thought was the best game of the week through 4 quarters. I know a lot of people are going to say Seattle and Denver, but Seattle and Denver the end was amazing, but I thought this game was awesome throughout.
It was. It really
and
was.
I know. Your favorite game of the week, Washington at Philadelphia. Let's go. Let's do this.
Oh, boy. It was everything you thought it was going to be and then a little more. Deshaun Jackson came in hot and fiery. The whole Redskins team came in hot and fiery. The Eagles came in a little slow and then picked it up.
That was the best thing about this game, though, I thought.
Yeah.
When they say rivalry in especially in football, a lot of times I put that in quotes because even like example, Tampa and Atlanta, did you really feel like these teams really hated each other on Thursday?
No.
These teams hated each other.
Yeah.
I mean, not just Deshaun Jackson. These teams did not want to lose to one another. I kind of think that maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm looking too far into this. The first game Chip Kelly coached last year, if you remember, was against that Redskins team that was coming off the RG3 year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they beat them. Yeah. And it kind of started off that season on the wrong note, and it just never recovered from there. I think this Washington team, and Deshaun Jackson being in the locker room probably helps this, they really do not like Philadelphia.
I think that's correct.
Also, there's not a better place, like, you could argue places like Seattle or Green Bay. I don't have a more fun time watching football when it's played in Philly. I mean, such an awesome field.
Yeah.
I love, it's so weird that I'm a Steelers fan. I love so much about the Eagles franchise.
Yeah.
I love Merrill Reese. I love Philadelphia in general, just like sports teams there, but especially the Eagles.
Yeah.
That crowd was awesome. I dare say the best crowd of the week, and that includes Seattle.
Yeah, like the Eagles crowds always get into it. They love booing calls no matter what it is.
Oh yeah, but when they're excited, when they're pumped, watch that Chris Polk return and just listen to the crowd as it just builds. Even that missed field goal by Kai Forbath had an amazing reaction.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Jackson, because he was egging on the crowd the whole game. But yeah, it was great. There was a great atmosphere going on there. I was pumped going into it, and it was great to see that everyone else was pumped up. What I really want to talk about is the second half of this game, and specifically the fourth quarter, because
that's been the story with the Eagles this whole season.
Yeah, and the running game was going nowhere. McCoy got hurt in the first half and really did not look the same after that, even though he came back into the game. Darren Sproles was a non-factor. This game was won by Nick Foles.
Foles, I think, can we give Nick Foles a double overtime MVP of the week?
Maybe. I don't know.
Please don't say Peyton Manning. I know you want. I kind of wanted to too, but Peyton Manning lost, so I can't give it to him. Well, Peyton Manning didn't lose. Denver lost, but you know what I'm saying?
Okay, we can give it to Nick Foles. I'm down for that.
All right.
But like I was saying, especially in the fourth quarter, especially after that cheap shot he took. And he got up from that and he put his big boy pants on and he won the game.
Yeah, tough dude.
Yeah,
tough dude that Foles. Another thing I really liked this. And you can argue, it was stupid for him to get kicked from the game. I don't think he should have got kicked from the game. Was it Peters who got kicked?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Redskins player, Chris Baker, got kicked, and the Eagles, Jason Peters got kicked, too.
Jason Peters. I like that right away. He came to the defense of his quarterback.
Yeah, right away.
With all this talk going on that Nick Foles isn't the franchise guy or anything, right away he got really pissed. You could tell he was not cool with that hit. And how dirty was that hit, Eli, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give it a 7 or an 8. It's not a 10, but I think Chris Baker, even though he says otherwise, I think he saw there was a quarterback, and I think he saw an opportunity to hit him. I think that's what happened.
Yeah. No, let's be honest. He would have hit him regardless. I mean, not only that, even if that, obviously he couldn't tell that wasn't an interception, but it was pretty clear that Foles was not going to make that tackle.
Yeah, no, he was not. He was not in the side. He was kind of watching what's going on, and I think Baker saw that he was sitting there not paying attention, and that was Nick Foles. He's like, I'm going to get a shot at the quarterback for free, and he took it.
Are you concerned with this running game at all, particularly with Sean McCoy?
I think the line has a lot to do with that.
That's what I was going to say too.
Jason Kelce's out for 8 weeks now. because he has a hernia problem. We don't know if Jason Peters is going to get suspended. He might. I really hope he doesn't.
I really, because a lot of that was, I don't know. That was so Baker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But really, I think that has to do with the line. And once again, he took a pretty nasty hit early in that game. He just wasn't the same after that.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned, but I'll wait until next week to reserve judgment because really, what I really want to pin this on is the injury to the offensive line. Of course, McCoy kind of get shaken up.
I think McCoy, when all his dudes come back, is going to be really good, like in the end of this season, where not quite Adrian Peterson in 2012 where he went for 2,000, but if you remember, Peterson started out that season pretty stagnant, and he just went off. And I think a lot of, like McCoy, like, is there a single player on this offensive line that's out for the season?
No.
Okay,
Lane Johnson is going to be the next one back in 2 weeks.
Lane Johnson's going to return in about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, like they were starting 4 backup linemen. I think a lot of that was the problem.
Yeah, the backups of the backups were starting.
Oh, yeah. They were out of linemen. If another one got hurt, they were probably playing, I don't know, James Casey as one of their linemen.
Or like the long snapper or something like that.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was not looking good if someone else got hurt. Nick Foles had a few accuracy problems a little bit in this game.
Yeah. But
it's a little concerning. But the one thing I will say about Foles, and I think this is also a testament to Chip Kelly's offense, among the best decision makers in the league.
Yeah.
Even when he throws the pass off, it's never to the wrong guy. He's throwing it to the right guy. I mean, he missed Ertz on a wide open throw, but other than that, he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
No interceptions this week. Should have been one, but it wasn't an interception. Here's what I was going to ask you. Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, you know what? I think it was underplayed a little bit, but I think going into this game, he had some emotional ties because him and Deshaun Jackson were pretty close when they were on the team. And I think he was hurt by how Deshaun Jackson acted, especially during the game. And I remember his last touchdown, basically the game-winning touchdown.
Perfect throw, by the way.
Yeah, perfect throw. And he didn't celebrate. He walked around with the ball, and you could tell he felt a lot of emotion going on because I think he was pretty offended by how Deshaun was acting.
Well, Macklin's not a very vocal guy either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never really been. Here's what I was going to say. We've seen this a lot in the past few years where guys who are designated as number 2 guys get a chance to be in that number 1 role and just take it. Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh, where, I mean, is there an argument that Brown's better than Mike Wallace right now?
No.
No, but during that whole tenure there, Brown was the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman in New England. Now, while I won't argue that Edelman's better than Welker, I will say Edelman's a lot better than we thought he was. I mean, he's really good. And I kind of think we see it with Maclin here in Philly, where Macklin's always been stuck in that number 2 role, and now that he has the number 1 role. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this year people are saying Macklin's better than Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, you know what? That was already an argument going on when Deshaun was here, just because Macklin's much more of he has more of a balanced. He's speedy and he can make the big play, but he has good hands and he can really hold onto a ball. I
think.
Yeah.
I don't want to say one-trick pony because that's kind of harsh. Deshaun does one thing about as good as anyone in the league, whereas Maclin is above average on all traits, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Deshaun Jackson, believe me, I think he's the best at the league at taking the top off the defense. He's the best at the big play, and I think that really showed in this game, especially on that 81-yard bomb. But
I thought that's where the fight was going to start. Philadelphia sounded like they were ready to run on the field and take Deshaun with them.
Well, yeah.
Like they were not. I mean, granted, we expected this, but I kind of thought that's where the fight was going to start. Yeah. You and we've been talking about this game. You thought Deshaun might get in Chip Kelly's face. If that happened, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way a fight doesn't
start.
Yeah,
he didn't catch a ball on the sidelines for that to happen. But I think the closest we got to a brawl with Deshaun is I think it was the second play of the game, and he caught a pass, and he was tackled by Malcolm Jenkins, and him and Malcolm Jenkins got into it. But other than that, he was pretty quiet as far as fights.
Interesting. I think Bradley Fletcher's by the way, another receiver who's better. I don't even know if Deshaun's the best receiver on his team. Pierre Garçon is really good.
Yeah.
And there's always been this talk of Pierre Garçon being overrated because, well, at the beginning of his career, he played with Indianapolis with Peyton Manning, but he's been really good these past few seasons for Washington.
He has, and he's gone under the radar because they've been so bad, but he's so solid.
Yeah. And even the year that they made the playoffs and they were 10-6, he went under the radar too because of their run game. Griffin was the big star that year, but Pierre Garçon's been really good for Washington. I think he's been one of their better pickups of the past few years.
Also talking about Washington, Kirk Cousins looked great. Kirk Cousins looked great.
I cannot deny that. He had a few inaccurate passes. Yeah. I think he has problems throwing to the sidelines a bit. Mm-hmm. But Grant, that's kind of going to happen in a young quarterback. Yeah. He did throw a pick to end this game pretty much.
Yeah. And it wasn't pretty either. That was pretty much right at Malcolm Jenkins, too.
No, that was a bad pick. Yeah. Again, though, I want to see him against a really good defense. The secondary looked really bad.
Yeah, it did. Again.
And for all my talk of the front seven, they didn't look much better either.
Well, yeah, because Michael Kendrick was hurt. He didn't play this game.
Yeah.
That didn't help. But I will say, there is one player in the secondary that I'm pleasantly surprised with, because I didn't expect much from him going in. But Malcolm Jenkins, I believe he has an interception in each of the first 3 games. He's
looked really good.
He's playing really well.
That's nice to see. Good safeties. Has it been since Brian Dawkins that the Eagles could say they had a good safety?
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so going back to Kirk Cousins for a second. We didn't bring this team up last week, but for the RG3 trade talk, I don't want to get too much into this, but not Dallas, Houston. What do you think of that?
I like that, actually.
I don't know if Bill O'Brien's necessarily the coach for him, but I thought Houston could be really good with a good quarterback.
Yeah, because Ryan Fitzpatrick ain't cutting it over there, man.
No. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel so bad for that guy. The greatest catch that will ever be taken back. Did you see that catch?
What?
The DeAndre Hopkins catch in the Texans-Giants
game. Maybe.
It was called back?
No, I didn't.
Not fair that was called back. It was so good. He reaches his arm back in a way that doesn't even make sense. He's fully extended, stops that ball with his hand in midair and pulls it in. It's Moss, Chris Carter, any receiver-esque that you can name that's ever made a great catch. That's up there. Incredible. I just feel like this offense is so hindered by the fact that it has Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback.
Yeah.
2 last things that are of the utmost importance we must talk about. Emmanuel Ochoa's tweet today to Deshaun Jackson, showing him standing outside that fight.
Yeah.
And saying, quote, "The moment you realize you're not about that life," I thought was hilarious. Granted, I can't really blame Deshaun. I mean, he actually was hurt in this game, and I can't blame him for not wanting to get involved in a brawl. Anyway, also, did you hear Joe Buck's first line when they kicked the ball off?
No, I did not, because I missed the first 2 minutes of that game, trying to find a stream.
As they kicked the ball off, Joe Buck says, and I friggin' quote, "In the words of the immortal Tone Lock, let's get it on." I don't know what's gotten into Joe Buck. He had a weird call in that Cowboys game last week, too. But I feel like he's trying to be wacky because everyone says he's boring.
No, okay.
Go ahead.
If we're going to talk about I'm a huge Joe Buck fan.
Yeah.
Joe Buck has always been a sarcastic little guy.
No, I love Joe Buck. I really do. I think Joe Buck, especially after watching that Denver-Seattle game, and I had to put up with Simpson Nance, I love Buck.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. Joe Buck, I can't tell you how much he really doesn't give a beep. You know?
No. But that's what was awesome about it. Listen, he said it in the Joe Buck way. He didn't say it with this is a funny joke. No, he said it like Joe Buck calling a base hit in baseball. Yeah. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. He has a great line on his bio on Twitter. He says, "I hate every team."
Awesome. Incredible.
No, that's not right. He says, "I love every team except yours."
That's awesome. Yeah. That's incredible.
Because people always get on him for having a bias. It's like, he's not biased. Yeah. He doesn't really care, to be honest.
That's what makes Joe Buck, though. Joe Buck, we love you here on the Double Overtime Podcast. Friend of the show, Joe Buck.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to our previews. Game I'm most looking forward to this week, Falcons at Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy time started on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know I'm a big fan of Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I will say this. Listen. Few things about that game that we should step back on a bit. A, he didn't look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
He did not look terrible for a guy coming in his first game. He did not expect, did not have preparation. Very conservative game plan. I kind of think that was also because they had Matt Castle at quarterback. And also, even if Teddy Bridgewater was rolling on all cylinders, I wouldn't expect him to win a game in New Orleans right now. What do you think of this game going? Well, I'll let you go first. What do you think's going to happen? Falcons at Vikings.
Well, I'm going to talk about Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to start, obviously. I think he's not going to have such a great time, mainly because he's missing two big weapons for the Vikings, of course, Adrian Peterson, and also Kyle Rudolph.
Really? Rudolph's not playing?
Rudolph is not playing.
Okay.
I want Teddy Bridgewater to do well, like you said, because I love the kid, but I don't know if he's going to have a great time against the Falcons.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
I'm not just saying that because I love Teddy Bridgewater. A, Bridgewater's going to have a full week of practice behind him, which is going to be good with the starters. B, he never really knew life with Adrian Peterson.
True.
And also, I don't know. I kind of think this team gets kind of fired up that they don't have Peterson now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with Peterson not playing for this team. I agree he should not be playing for them right now. But I kind of think this team, that's kind of a rallying cry for this team. We almost saw with the Dolphins last year with the stupid Incognito Martin situation. Stupid on the Dolphins' part. But yeah. And also, that Falcons defense, listen, they look good against Josh McCown, who might be the worst starting quarterback in the league. That's saying something considering Austin Davis is taking snaps. Actually, I shouldn't even. Considering that Ryan Fitzpatrick's taking snaps. Let's be cool with Austin Davis. Also, they still have Cordero Patterson, who's really good. They still have Greg Jennings, who's really good. I don't know. And also, they have a backup tight end. I forget his name. And Matt Asiata hasn't looked bad. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll win, but I kind of think it'll be a shootout.
Maybe. I don't know. I just see the Falcons having too many offensive weapons for it to be a shootout.
I still like the Vikings defense. Considering that they were playing against New Orleans at home, and they only gave up 19 points, I think that says something. Also, that 1985 Hulk Hogan suplex, as Drew Brees called it on him, it was pretty brutal, but I thought it was funny when Brees tried to get up and fight him and gave him the sissiest shove I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was really funny. Have you seen it?
No.
You've seen it, right?
No.
Oh, rewatch the scene where after he gets that suplex, where Brees tries to get up and he tries to get in the wrong guy's face with it, because he gets hit by two guys and he gets in the wrong one's face, and he just tries to shove that's so pitifully laughable. That's all I can say. But I thought Teddy looked good. Teddy looks really good in the blitz. That's one thing I'll give him. He never panics.
Yeah.
He tripped over his lineman, but that was because Matt Khalil was getting shut back. Matt Khalil hasn't looked good in a few games, which is concerning. I don't think it's unthinkable that the Vikings win this game. Also, records for teams that just blew out teams by over 50 points the following game, not good. I remember a few years ago, the Rams stomped the Saints after they blew out the Colts like 62-0. That was the year that Curtis Painter was. The Curtis Painter era in Indianapolis.
Man, I remember Curtis Painter. I've got myself a Curtis Painter jersey.
No, you don't.
I don't.
They even sold them. Did you buy it out of the back of a dude's van? Just imagine like a white jersey that just says, or a white shirt that just says Painter on the back. Anything else to say about Falcons Vikings?
I'll say this: Julio Jones has looked like possibly the best receiver this year. He has looked ridiculous.
Yeah, yes, and that's going to be tough for the Vikings to stop. I look forward to that game. I just think it'll be a fun game anyway.
Yeah,
I do. Speaking of fun games, and speaking of wide receivers and wide receivers returning, Panthers at Ravens. Eli, are you ready for this?
I don't think I am.
Steve Smith promised bloodshed. He promised bloodshed. You thought that Deshaun Jackson's return. Granted, this one's not in Carolina, But considering Carolina fans were pissed anyway, I don't think it's that big a deal.
He's gonna kill a Panthers player. He's gonna kill.
Okay, Deshaun Jackson's. I think we can disagree. Deshaun Jackson's a bit of an, I'll say, asshole. Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
I think you would agree with that even when he was on the Eagles. Steve Smith is just nuts. Steve Smith is insane.
He's gonna sacrifice a Panthers player on the field.
I would not be surprised if they put Steve Smith on defense and had him just blitz Cam Newton. That would be incredible, just because the years of turmoil between those two.
This game is so entertaining in my head. I don't think it could ever live up to the expectations.
Steve Smith has to be on the field for every snap. Steve Smith's got to be kicking field goals instead of Justin Tucker. Steve Smith, oh my God, he's got to be on the offensive line. I just, oh God. I actually think Steve Smith can have a big game, too, considering the Panthers' cornerbacks are not good.
No, they're not. And I think he will have a good game. I think he'll have a great game.
Oh, yeah. And I guarantee you, I can see Kuechly getting a big hit, or maybe, see, that's the thing, their big hitters are all not their corners or their secondary. They're all their linebackers in there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a team. You don't like the Ravens' defense, but I still like both these defenses, even with the Panthers' loss to Pittsburgh.
Who do you think wins this?
It's hard for me not to pick Baltimore.
Yeah, same.
Just because I'm more confident in their offense, despite how odd it is, against that secondary than I am against Carolina against the Baltimore secondary. Mm-hmm. It's still going to be really entertaining, though.
Mm-hmm.
Final preview. Eagles at 49ers.
Mm.
Man, we talk about the Eagles a lot on this podcast. It's almost like we have a fan of one. But honestly, I chose this game because this is a big game.
Yes, it is.
Has any of the 3-0 teams had a tougher time being 3-0 than Philadelphia?
No, they have not. Philly has trailed by 10 points or more in every one of their games so far.
They trailed by 10 points against Washington?
Yeah, they were down
at the beginning, 17-7. Yeah. That was before Foles even had a chance with the ball. But he'd only had one drive at that point because the Chris Polk returned. Anyway, second half points for the Niners total, Eli. Guess.
What is it? It's something like 20-something? 26?
For the Niners.
Oh, for the Niners. Oh, that's right. They're terrible.
3 points total. And the Eagles averaged 24 points in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting little stat.
Yeah, and that's going to be the storyline of this game.
Oh, yeah. We were concerned about the Niners scoring in the preseason. I was one of the guys like, step back a bit. It's preseason. It's become a concern.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really weird because in the first half of these games, the Niners look like, what we thought they could be, one of the best teams in football.
Yeah.
All three of these games, they look like that in the first half. And in the second half, even in the Dallas game, they went a little stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an odd thing. I think penalties kill them down the stretch. Penalties are a big thing.
Yeah, they're playing very sloppy.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the lack of defense. Jimmy Ward has looked really bad. Mm-hmm. He's a rookie DB, so I don't want to pick him apart too bad. I believe he's given up like 5 touchdowns, though.
Mm-hmm.
He has not looked good. And I kind of think that's why I choose the Eagles to win this game.
Really? A lot of people aren't sure from what I'm hearing. They're thinking.
I'm not sure either,
Niners
but
Jimmy,
jump back. I think it could be another shootout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kaepernick actually looked good against Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had an interception in the first half, but other than that, he looked really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think they're going to pick on Jimmy Ward, and I think Macklin is going to have a field day. By the way, another guy you weren't sure of, that Jordan Matthews kid is pretty good.
Jordan Matthews looked great. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, 2 great touchdowns, 2 great throws, too. But
I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years we're talking about him as a top 10 receiver.
Yeah.
I really think that's his ceiling. I like that kid.
He has a great body for it. He has great hands.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, he has a great attitude. So I think the sky's the limit, man.
Great pedigree, too.
Yeah.
Nephew of Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. That's going to be one of the major storylines they're going to talk about in this.
Oh, no way. Oh, I didn't even think of that. And they're in San Francisco. I wonder if Jerry Rice is going to be at this game. The Niners, if they win this game...
Oh, my God.
If they win this game, it's their first win at Levi's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. He's at least taken a picture with them before the game.
I can already hear Joe Buck saying, and this is Jerry Rice's nephew.
Shame Jerry Rice didn't have a special celebration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jordan Matthews seems like a pretty classy kid, but it would have been nice to see him pull it off.
And I can already see the graphic of Jerry Rice's first 3 games as a rookie versus Jordan Matthews. I can already see it.
We should be the Fox production.
Exactly. I'm producing this whole game for them as far as content. It's
Was Nick Foles drafted in the 3rd round?
I think.
Oh, so was Joe Montana. Oh boy. The narratives. Chip Kelly is like the new Bill Walsh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're unsure. Who do you think's winning this game? I have Philly. I don't know if Philly run away with it, but I have Philly.
Oh man, I'm so torn on this.
It's tough.
It is tough. At home, I think the Niners really feel a lot of pressure to not be 1-3 because if they're 1, there's a lot.
I actually kind
of San Francisco.
I think a big half is coming for that second half for the Niners.
Yeah.
Win or lose.
I think that defense is going to step up. It all depends if that defense can keep up with the Eagles, though. That's the big thing.
That's how they're going to win. Yeah. Is if they can get pressure on Foles with this decimated offensive line.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Eagles.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with my team. I think it's very close, though. I think it's just like the first 3 games. It's a close game.
All right. I'd agree with that. It's not going to be easy. Eagles have a tough schedule this year, man. They still have Seattle coming.
Mm-hmm.
They still have Arizona, and they still have an NFC East that I have to admit looked pretty good this week.
They did for them. They did.
I think no one's making a big deal of it, but I thought the Giants looked really good against Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Eli in particular looked really good.
He did.
Anyway, speaking of Eli, we're going to go with our final segment, our final score, final question.
Mm-hmm.
Where Eli and I, we've not heard each other's questions for each other, but it's just one question. It'd be goofy, serious, whatever. So I'll start with my question. Eli.
Yes.
After last week's record-breaking performance, is Devin Hester a Hall of Famer?
Yeah. I think before that he was a Hall of Famer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Will Devin Hester be a Hall of Famer? Different question.
Will he?
Yes.
I think he'll be borderline considered by a lot of people. I think he gets in, not first ballot. He's definitely not first ballot. But I think he gets in eventually.
Okay.
Now my question to you. Okay. Prepare yourself.
I'm ready.
If you could take any player from the Steelers' history of great players, copy and paste them on today's team, they're in their prime, who would it be?
Could I copy and paste the player that's currently on the team as a better player of himself?
You may, and I think I know where you're going with this.
It's hard to say anyone from the 70s Steelers because the rules have changed so much that I kind of feel like that defense wouldn't necessarily work today.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me, Mel Blount, for saying that. I kind of want to pick you, but they invented pass interference because of you, Mel Blount. I'll go with... Screw it. Troy Polamalu in his prime.
Yep.
We need secondary help. Troy Polamalu in his prime is among the best safeties of all time. I still think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, true.
So that's going to do it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. For everyone who listens on YouTube, I'm sorry. I had trouble uploading it this week. I think it might have been the program I used. I'll try going back to my other way this week. I'll try to get this one up. If you want to listen to last week's episode, we have a SoundCloud. You can listen to it. We now have a Facebook page where you can get updates like that, please. Our website now just is doubleovertimepodcast.com. No longer WordPress. I bought the domain name. And looking forward, I don't know, Eli, are we going to talk some MLB playoffs pretty soon here?
I think so.
We might have to talk a little bit. But wait a minute. There is no double overtime in MLB. Is this the debut of the 11th inning podcast? So that might be coming. I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about NBA pretty soon here, too.
Yeah,
so
we've still got about a month. So.
Yeah, we will. But some things to look forward to. This is the best time of the year to be a sports fan, in my opinion. Just sports all over the place.
It'll be, but yeah.
Wait, what's up?
In about a month, it'll be the best time to be a sports fan.
Oh, yeah. But this is just... I like the hype that's coming. The basketball hype starting, the playoff hype starting. Derek Jeter's playing his final series at Yankee Stadium right now. So yeah, real quick, real final question. World Series, who's playing in it? Go, Eli.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Angels.
Okay.
Oh.
Cross down. Is it?
Angels, Dodgers.
Oh, there we go. That'd be crazy if that happened. That's my prediction too. Though I have to say, all right, real quick baseball talk. I think my A's are not the Indiana Pacers of last year of the baseball world. They beat the Angels last night, which is so happy.
They really dropped off.
No, but they did beat the Angels last night, which I thought was an impossibility at some point during the season.
Uh-huh.
With that, we'll preview the future 11th inning podcast coming. That's going to be it. I'm Joey Hickman. I'll see you later. What's up?
Clayton Kershaw is going to win the MVP and the Cy Young. Book it. Just book it.
Book it. All right. That'll be it for today, guys. See you later.